Had to get away from it all.
Good for you. You certainly did. Far away.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't mind my friend over there. He won't.
That's fine. That's perfectly fine. It's a calming. I mean, if you can't be calm looking at the Buddha, you're in trouble.
Exactly.
Excuse me, George, while we wait for Christine to join us, can we check
Yeah.
on Clinton Graham? Because I will have to do roll call for voting.
Clinton, do you have audio capability yet? Because we are going to need to hear you for vote. Hearing nothing. I hope he's able to arrange himself.
All I can see on my end is that his microphone is connected, but it's muted at this point.
It's muted. Okay. Well, we'll manage. All right. So we have Christine joining us. We heard from Scott or Chris Hart or Susanna, all of whom told me that they were making it tonight.
I haven't heard from
We
Chris
got
Hart.
you. Clinton, I'm guessing you can hear us clearly, I hope?
Yes, I can. How you doing?
Perfect. Happy to have you. Very happy that you're here. And thanks for dialing in.
My pleasure.
Clinton, did you want to serve for next fiscal year?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
Excellent.
I'll let,
Good. Bob,
yeah.
Bob already knows.
Oh,
Okay,
good.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for getting in touch with him directly. That's great. So that's one fewer person we have to recruit. And that's always nice. And it's also continuity, which I think is important at this juncture because there's a lot that's many moving parts. Mike, I give you a great deal of credit being so elegantly attired on such a warm evening.
I wish I could say it was for you, George, but
I didn't expect it was, but I do compliment you.
No, they just pinned the new fire chief over at the council.
Oh, I saw that. Yes. And was it? I mean, I can't ask if it was well attended under the circumstances.
It was actually.
Was it?
They had, it was socially distanced to a degree, and everybody had the masks on, but it was a very nice ceremony.
That's good. Yeah, excellent. Lynn, where do we stand so far? We've got 7.
Christine is just about to join. I'd say she has 1 more minute.
Great. And I thought Kevin Freitag is going to join us as well.
In his email, he asked if you needed him, and I wasn't sure if he did, so I did not reply affirmatively that he should join.
I think we're probably okay. Without him, he doesn't have to take time because the recommendations are very straightforward and the language is evident in the electronic delivery. It's just that and the changes to the Milton Village Overlay District warrant. So he really doesn't need to join us. He certainly made his observations and his recommendations very clear. Just want to make it, and I'm guessing everybody got the physical copy of their warrants.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Christine, are you all set? George, we also have Scott Johnson as well.
Oh, terrific. We have our quorum then, so we can begin. So I will call this meeting to order. Thank you very much for dialing in. We have the meeting minutes. Lynn, do you want to read which meeting minutes we have available to make sure everybody has received them that you sent out?
Sure. It was 5:15, 6:08, 6:15, and 6:16.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe everybody has received those.
Correct.
Do I have a motion
Motion to
accept these minutes as presented?
motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Do we have any discussion or any changes to any of these meeting minutes as presented?
I'll second that.
So we have no changes.
Nope, they all look good.
Okay, if that's the case, the chair will entertain a motion. Lynn, would you take the roll? The motion's been made and seconded.
Sure. George,
Yes.
Clinton,
Yep. Hello.
hi. Is that affirmative?
Yes.
Okay. Brian Foster,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Christine, Christine,
Wait, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah,
that's okay. Jonathan,
Yes.
Erin,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Scott. Scott Johnson. You're still
You're
muted.
still muted, Scott.
Still muted.
I can read his lip.
Got it.
There we go. There we go.
I
Okay.
was saying, hold on.
It looked like that. It didn't look like I, but we'll take your word for it. Thank you. Okay. Our first order of business is to talk about the Milton Village Overlay District. Cheryl Tagayas has very kindly once again joined us to describe the changes that we're looking at. Cheryl, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, George. And I think all of you know that the planning board continued to receive comments from Alex Whiteside, and including in June an email in which he included attachment, which would be a motion to amend, which he intended to bring to town meeting if no further revisions were taken up by the planning board. And so April, who is now our chair, asked me if I would meet with Alex and review his comments and see if we could come to agree with including some of them such that he could support the article. And so I'm happy to report that we've done that. So that we've received, I can't tell you how many pages of comments and how many details that I've personally reviewed with him, but he has indicated that he now supports this as written. And I also since then have attended a meeting of the Historical Commission where they voted unanimously to support this current version of the zoning. I think I'll hit the highlights unless you'd like me to go through line by line with the red line version, George. So
Well, we've all received it. I assume that everybody has read it. If you just want to hit the major points of difference between what we voted before and what we're being asked to consider now, that I think would be valuable.
Okay, so I would say on the first page under allowed uses, adding a definition of a residential unit. So this ties, we realized that we actually didn't have a definition of what multifamily housing is. And then a definition of a housing unit within that. So that was added to paragraph 2B. And so I think probably for most people, they wouldn't see that as a significant change, but it does help clarify what is allowed under the residential. And then there are several or a couple of things that relate to the historic properties and how best to incentivize or encourage or require historic preservation without making it financially infeasible to do. So in section 2B, lot coverage, we put a provision that the footprint of a building constructed before 1930 would not have to be included. So that's an idea to help make it less onerous to preserve the historic property. And then the same thing applies to the change in paragraph C, building height, which is it may seem kind of obvious or redundant, but existing structures can maintain their existing height and number of stories. So those, again, fairly minor, but address concerns about the historic provisions. The others, before we get to historic, I think are fairly clerical in nature. Then we get to the historic preservation. We also did hear from a property owner, Michael Roberts. He owns what's been called the Swift Hat Building and the building behind it. And he had been following along the last few years in this zoning. And when he realized that there's some changes had been made here, he contacted me and wanted to make sure that we realized or we recognized that there could be some financial hardship. So we revised these, and I also reviewed these with Alex Whiteside and the Historical Commission. And this is that again, looks fairly minor, but allowing the square footage of a historic building up to 1,000 square feet preserved on site, not being included in the calculation of the maximum floor area. Again, that's sort of like another incentive to allow for historic preservation that doesn't become too costly. And then just after that is allowing for this incentive even if you have to reconstruct the historic property rather than preserve it. And this is something where if the condition of the building is in such straits that it becomes impossible to preserve, that it can be rebuilt and you can still get the bonus. And that addresses the Swift Hat Building, I think, as well. Then you continue to the Historic Preservation Section 5. And this is one where there's been some legal disagreement, frankly, about whether you can use zoning to require historic preservation. Our understanding has been that historic preservation requirements need to come through the adoption of a local historic district. But there has been, since there's been some disagreement and it's not 100% clear, the board agreed to include a provision to require historic preservation, but also to allow the board to waive that requirement under certain conditions. So it's tried to get a balance between the interest in preserving historic buildings, but not such that you have something which might have one beam or some granite foundation left, and that's about it. The rest has been altered over time, and then require that to be preserved. So, or the condition of it is such that it can't be preserved financially reasonable manner. And so, so this change was something that's been asked for some time, and we think this provides a reasonable balance between the requirement and then the waiver option to it. Any questions on that one?
Is everybody following? It'll make the vote easier. Okay, keep going, Cheryl. This is good.
Okay. And then, again, a little clarifying language. I'm scrolling through the zoning on my screen here. Then we get to parking. Again, this has been one that's been discussed for years. What's the appropriate requirement, minimum parking requirement? Because we know that parking, too much parking has requirements for too much parking has restricted redevelopment in this neighborhood. And we also know that it has access to the trolley and to the bike path. And the board has reviewed a lot of data. I think I've talked to you about this before, and felt very comfortable with the requirements, the minimum requirements of one parking space for 1,000 square feet of business floor area and one parking space per one residential unit. Mr. Whiteside had asked us to increase that pretty significantly and then give ourselves an option to reduce it. So what we settled on was keeping it where we have it with an option for the board to allow an increase in that requirement if the board felt under certain circumstances it was warranted. So it's, again, in the spirit of getting the greatest support possible, we felt that that was a revision that we could accept. Okay. I think the other things were more like I would call clerical, if you will.
Yep.
You know, reference sections, etc.
Right. It brought everything, it tightened it up, I think, is the right term. It made the references make sense to the changes that had been suggested and which were adopted by the planning board.
Right.
So has anyone, Cheryl, is that, you're okay with that? And is there anything else you want to add before I open up to questions? Any questions for Cheryl, please?
Is the parking you're talking about, Cheryl, is that 8, 9, and 10 and 11?
Yes.
Is that what that's the paragraphs you're talking about, right?
Yes, that's right. So we did not make any changes to 10 and 11 in this revision. We just made them to 8 and 9. And as I said, we kept what we had as a minimum, but provided that the board could increase that amount should the board feel it be necessary. I think there's some concern that if a project gets built and we learn from that project that our parking requirements are inadequate, that we have it built into the zoning already to require more for a different project rather than going back to revise the zoning. So these do grant more discretion to the planning board than strict requirements. So we felt that we wanted the underlying strict requirement of the parking to remain and not be higher, but give ourselves an option to add.
Okay. Any other questions?
Cheryl, it's Erin Bradley. I just have a couple quick questions.
Sure.
First of all, you guys have done yeoman's work on this, and I also want to say the warrant committee has as well. I think this is the 3rd or 4th time that we are reviewing this and taking a vote on it. I'm just curious if the planning board is used to having so much input from one specific person in a community and revising plans this much because of one person. I'm not saying that it's not a cleaner, better article now, but I'm curious about the planning board's process because, like I said, this is now the 4th time we're voting on it, and it just, to me, it seems like this one particular person has had a lot of input on something that I'm not even sure he lives near.
Oh.
Well, Erin, thanks for the question. You know, a 2/3 vote of town meeting is a high hurdle. And we on the planning board felt as if this one person who had been on the planning board for 30 years and who
he chaired it for a number of years too, did he not?
Chaired it for a number of years, yes. And who has been probably the outside the planning board, the one who has reviewed it in the most detailed way.
Absolutely.
So when he and I sat in my backyard 6 feet apart and discussed this for 2 hours, we went through point by point in a very, you know, well, this does that, and what about this way? And, you know, and I do appreciate that when you get to when you actually get an application and then you are left with making a decision in that application, and if the application, if there's any kind of, you know, I guess something in the zoning that leaves room for discretion or is unclear, it makes it a little harder for the planning board down the road. So for somebody who has reviewed applications for as many years as he did, you know, that detailed language, you know, kind of saying, well, you know, if you tighten it this way, it could do this. You know, I think it was helpful. There's certain things that the board and Mr. White said disagreed on. You know,
right.
Certain things that we felt that we just couldn't meet the goals changed. And I think and he didn't insist on all of the things that he originally proposed. So.
Well, I'm happy to hear that, Cheryl, and I'm happy that he was so involved with it, and I completely understand. It's just, to me, it just seems very interesting, so that's why I had the question. I've just never voted on an article so many times. So so thank you for your work. That's all. Thank you.
So Erin, just one last thing on that. One of the things that the board has talked about is that we really felt it very important to try and get this done at one town meeting. We know that there are a number of property owners who have been waiting for this. And if this got sent back for further study, we just had concerns about how long that could be before we could get this zoning before town meeting again. And so there's a lots of variables in this, if you will, or lots. And the Historical Commission really was involved. The Affordable Housing Trust was involved. We got detailed comments from them, the Neighborhood Association. So there were lots of people besides Mr. Whiteside. It's just that a lot of his detailed comments came toward the later part of this process. And that's why you're hearing from us now rather than having had us included all of this previously.
Any other questions? Thank you, Cheryl. If there are no other questions, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the changes in the amendments as presented.
I'll move to accept the changes and amendments as presented.
Do I hear a second? Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Thank you. Any discussion further? If none, Lynn, please call the roll.
George,
Aye.
Clinton, Clinton,
Aye.
Thank you.
Brian,
Aye.
Kathy,
Yes.
Christine,
Aye.
John,
I'm having trouble over here, so bear with me, guys.
Aye.
Erin,
Yes.
Doug,
Aye.
Scott.
Affirmative.
That's all, George.
Could we get Christine?
We did.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So it's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. Again, Cheryl, thank you for all of the work you've done, and thank you very much for spending the time with us to make it so digestible for us, because there's a great deal of data that we have gone through. Nowhere near the level I know that you have, but it is a big help to have you explain to us. So again, thank you very much, and we'll see you at the town meeting.
Okay, thank you all.
Good night.
Good night.
Next order of business is to talk about the electronic delivery, changes to the warrant pertaining to electronic delivery. We have Mike Zulas representing the select board to talk to us a little bit about that.
Thank you, George. Very briefly, the essence of the article is the same. The purpose of it is to save money and to save trees. One of the responses, the essential response that we had at town meeting before this was sent back was the thought that for some voters, it's a possibility that this book provides access and gives people the opportunity to be involved when they otherwise may not be involved. So in order to address that concern and to try to shift the balance a little bit between saving money and saving trees and access on the other side, we added in to the recommendation that any resident of the town who makes a request for the paper copy for this, and again, they'll have the warrant will be available online, it'll be available in all the public buildings, copies of it available. Any resident of the town who requests to have this paper copy mailed to them will have the opportunity to do that, and that would be online on the website, and there'd be a form for people who aren't on the website, there'd be a form in the town administrator's office. So that small change, which I think is in red in what Kevin may have sent to you, which says, and any resident of the town who submits a written request to the town administrator to receive a paper copy. That's the change, and the purpose was, again, to address that concern, at least to some degree, that was raised back on June 15th.
Okay. This is the amendment that we had been asked to discuss a couple weeks ago before the special town meeting warrant was at the printers, but unfortunately we could not achieve a quorum. But unfortunately, we couldn't do that then. So this is effectively the same business. I think many of us have reviewed it a few times now. Are there any questions for Mike Zulas? Great, terrific. If the hearing none, Mike, thank you very much. Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the amendments to this warrant as presented.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion further to this? Hearing none, Lynn, would you take the roll, please?
George,
Yes.
Clinton, Clinton,
Hello?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yep.
Doug,
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
That's everybody.
Great, unanimous. I don't think that requires any, I think there will be green sheets or the equivalent to these, the green sheets at the town meeting, the special town meeting. I anticipate our next meeting would be just before the special town meeting convenes, as we did before. We'll have a separate Zoom meeting like this, in addition to the webinar that we had for the town meeting, the annual town meeting a few weeks ago. So I ask you all to keep an eye on your your email and your communications from the town so that you can join us, so that we have a quorum for the 28th of July. There are 12 articles now, Mike?
10, I believe.
10 articles, sorry. 10 articles. I thought we added a couple, but no. 10 articles. So who knows whether it's going to be done in one night. Many of these are points that will be discussed, that should be discussed. And again, not sure how long it will take, but in a remote format, it could either go quicker or it could be more drawn out. But in any case, that our next meeting will be the 28th of July. That will effectively be the last meeting of this warrant committee as composed. Our meeting after that in August, probably the second week of August, will be to welcome new members and to elect officers. So if there is no other business, I thank you all very much. Mike, thank you for joining us. I thank you all very much for joining. Doug, do you have a
We have
question?
to take a roll. George, we have to take a roll.
Oh, the roll
to
to go
adjourn.
yeah, I knew that. I was just going to ask
Sorry.
Lynn to take the roll.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, can I just ask, because I thought it was on was the prudent investor rule on the agenda? Is that one all set?
Yeah, that's all set. We don't have to vote on that.
Oh,
That
okay,
was,
great. Sorry, I just want to make
yeah,
sure.
there was actually no change to anything. So I got a note from Kevin Freideg, so we're okay with that.
Great.
Okay, so Doug, did you have a question?
Just quickly before the vote, it's a separate housekeeping matter. Just the first meeting in August of the new board. How will we get sworn in? Will Sue Galvin be able to swear us in online? Do we have to try and make arrangements? Or
I will get the detail on that before the meeting, well in advance. I don't know. I honestly don't know whether we can do it remotely or whether we have to be in the same room with her. But I'll find out and we'll communicate that to you all. So if there is nothing else, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn until the
we have
special
to
town.
vote, don't we?
Well, we have to make the motion first.
Okay.
Do I have a set? Is the motion made?
Second.
Okay, no discussion. Lynn, please take the roll.
Just to be clear, what's the motion on the table?
To adjourn.
Did we vote to accept the amendments?
We accepted the amendment, did we not?
I thought we did.
We took that vote already.
Okay, no, just double
Yeah.
checking. It's getting-
Yeah, no, we took that vote. Yeah,
We're just-
no, now we're voting. Now we're voting to adjourn.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay,
Getting confusing.
that's all right. It's one of those things. So, Lynn, can you take the roll, please?
Sure. George,
Yes.
Clinton,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Christine,
Yeah.
John,
Yes.
Erin,
Yes.
Doug,
Aye.
Scott.
Present.
Okay, that's everybody.
That's everybody. All right. Thank you all very much. And again, thank you very sincerely for all the work that you did this year, for responding as faithfully and diligently as you have for the drafting, redrafting, summoning, appearing at meetings with very little notice. You are a credit to the town. And again, my great gratitude for you all. So meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, and enjoy the next 2 weeks of this beautiful weather.
Great.
Good
Have a
night,
good night.
everybody. Lynn, thank you too.
You're welcome.
Good night, everybody.
Night,
Good night.
thanks.